kind of guiding approach that we've taken is an influencer is an influencer, and we don't really define them as online influencers or offline influencers. It's a matter of understanding that they're influential over their followers or over a community of people, and then we've got to go out and try to reach them to the best of our ability. What we set out at the beginning of the year to do was find the people that were most influential in some of our major corporate social responsibility pillars. So at the beginning of this year, we looked at women's empowerment, we looked at healthy foods, we looked at veterans, we looked at sustainability, and through a number of different tools and analyses, kind of derived a list in each one of those pillars of people that we thought were influential, that had sway over some group of followers, and in some cases their following was entirely digital, and the influence that they had would be communicated through tweets or through Facebook posts or through a Google Hangout or something. And then in a lot of cases, when you look at what we also do reputationally, it's communicating with elected officials, it's communicating with community leaders in markets where we're trying to build a Walmart. And in some of those cases, they have very, I don't want to say old school, but very kind of traditional constituencies. And as I think about Washington, D.C., and I think about Chicago, where we tried to build Walmarts and were successful in both places, you're talking about like African American churches and talking to ministers, and they're going to communicate from the pulpit and through a handout newsletter. And so working with the different influencers, at the end of the day, what I think they all have in common is that the relationship gets built through high-touch communication, one-on-one. And I think that was a learning that we had to bring to the team, is that I think when we brought forth the idea of building relationships with influencers and the power of social media to give everyone a voice, for a while there was a thought there that you could simply identify who the most influential people were, whatever your criteria may be. And each organization is different, so some might look at cloud scores, other might look at just the size of their following, and everybody's got to make their own decision as to who the most influential people are for their brand. There was this thought that all you had to do was tweet them or hit them with a Facebook post, and they would suddenly be beholden to your request to influence their people. And what we tried to explain to people is this is no different from your normal job of building relationships with traditional media. You got to pick up the phone, you got to go out to have a meal, you have to sit down and explain what it is we do here at Walmart and why they should care and why they should want to pass that information on to their community. So once we got everybody on board with that, it was just a simple matter of saying, okay, well then what matters to us? How are we going to define an influencer? And then what are the steps that we're going to take to see if they'd be willing to work with us and at least hear our point of view, and then leave it up to them as to whether or not they wanted to help push it out to their followings. I think it's more challenging. My background before Walmart was with some trade associations, worked in Washington, D.C., did the political game, and I think before the explosion of social, at least it seemed easier. I say that knowing that there's kind of pros and cons to it. So I think with the continued expansion of social media and with more people adopting it and with more channels being introduced every day, what it does do is it gives you the ability to see into groups that you couldn't see before, and the people who are raising their hand for more information or the people who are willing to support you are probably more quickly revealed to you, and you can find people who are saying positive things about Walmart or one of the initiatives we're working on, and we can try to reach out to them and build those relationships. Conversely, I think you hit on the point, which was that everybody now has a voice, and I think one of the more frustrating things with social is that in a lot of cases everybody's voice is sometimes the same, and picking a moment in time to look at a Twitter feed or something on Facebook or Google Plus could give somebody, an observer, the wrong impression of what's really happening. And so it's incredibly powerful. I think it makes communicating in a lot of ways quicker. I think you have to be smarter and more sophisticated about adapting your content for specific channels for specific audiences. And I think the people that can do that the best are the ones that are more likely to get their message heard. If you're trying to produce one piece of content, which I think is what you used to do before this explosion of social. If you think back to blast facts or emails, it was kind of a one-size-fits-all approach, and everybody got the same thing. So the ability to customize and segment certainly gives you more power, I guess, both as the person receiving the information and as the person distributing the information to make informed decisions. But like I said, it's a double-edged sword, so that the more people who are online and the more people creating profiles. And I also think that what I think back to in the days before all this is that relationships were never anonymous. You knew who the people were. You'd meet them at a fundraiser or a town hall meeting, or you'd communicate via email. And I can remember in some of my previous jobs managing the database and then meeting the people specifically. They'd come to Washington, D.C., or I'd be in their area, and I would go meet them. And I think one of the dangers or one of the pitfalls of social is the ability for people to remain anonymous or even kind of set up fake profiles to just cause havoc. And that's something as somebody who's in charge of both our traditional channels and our social channels challenges me on a day-to-day basis, because we have a very conservative corporate website that's pretty easy to manage. There's no nonsense going on there. And then I've got my other team that works on social that you look at everything and it can be mind-blowing some days to look at the stuff that's coming in. So it goes both ways. I guess it's better today than it used to be, because I'd always prefer being able to talk to more people than fewer people. While I love working at Walmart and it is fun working for the world's largest company, it comes with a certain level of scrutiny that I'm sure you can imagine that the need for transparency and candor I think is elevated here, and maybe to a level that a lot of other brands and organizations maybe don't adhere to or face on a day-to-day basis. Also, you know, I always want to scream when I attend a social media summit, or I go in, and they always want to harken back to some of the mistakes that Walmart made in the early days of social media, and they're out there for people to see, and we don't hide from them. But I think that there's been a lot of years between kind of when people stumbled into social media and when they've figured it out, and every day you and I see examples of brands that are getting it wrong and people that send out an offensive tweet or something. So we're very sensitive to being completely transparent, trying to engage on a very authentic level. Earlier this year, we launched a reputational advertising campaign to talk about Walmart jobs and to talk about Walmart's business model. And there were lots of accusations that people in the commercials were fake, that they were actors, and we fortunately had the foresight to do off-camera kind of or off-set interviews with them, and they were all then willing to say, no, I'm a real person, I work at Walmart, you can come see me. And the same holds true with influencers. I don't want to do anything really under the table with celebrities, with influencers, with others that isn't authentic. You know, earlier this week on Veterans Day, I hosted a Twitter chat with Gary Sinise, and it was incredibly authentic. I mean, he was here to talk about veterans. He's very committed to the cause. Walmart made an announcement earlier this year that we wanted to hire 100,000 veterans, and so the two fit. We've been approached in the past with some of these agencies and companies that can make celebrities available for tweets, and we've tried it, and I'm not sure where that gets you, because I think that the thing about social, as we were just alluding to in the previous question, was it's all there for everybody to see. And so if, and I prefer not to name any celebrities, but the ones that will, I guess, sell any product, I think everybody knows who they are, and you can go get them, and they'll tweet on your behalf, or they'll do something on your behalf. And I'd much rather work to develop real relationships. And I think that when we work with influencers, for the most part, their reaction is similar to what I think I had when I came to work for Walmart, and what a lot of people have, which is, wow, you guys do that? That's pretty amazing. And with all of the things that we do in different spaces, and with all of the people that work for us, our size and scale can really work in our favor on some of those issues. And the connection that some of these people that are influencers feel with Walmart is genuine and it's authentic. And we strive for that kind of voice, not only on our traditional channels, but on our social channels as well. And we don't have it completely perfect yet. There's still work to do, and I still get frustrated when people respond. We respond to a tweet or a comment, or we post on a website that has an unflattering article of us, and then somebody accuses it of being an agency, or they think it's fake, and I don't really know who's there. It's not a real person, and you just want to kind of bang your head against the wall. And so I kind of went to a rather gratuitous level with Gary Sinise on Monday, which was I told the photographer to come in and take a picture of Gary and I sitting at the computer so that we could justify, we could verify that he was really sitting there. So I think there's a healthy dose of skepticism with social. I think there should. In fact, with all online things, that trust but verify kind of thing. And so that's to be expected. And I think that brands and Walmart especially, I think what you see is what you get, and I think we're pretty transparent about it, and hopefully that's what people that follow our handles think as well. What we're looking to do is really, I think, focus more on our own associates. It's really an untapped resource for us, and so when we work with a group like the Fisher House, who we've made a large grant to over the holidays to bring to be able to build homes for wounded veterans, getting people who are passionate about veterans' causes to say something about Walmart, or to give us a shout out, or to work with us isn't challenging. They're used to using those channels. We encourage them, and I think advocacy on that level is it's pretty straightforward. Where we've got a lot of work to do, and what I'm really excited about moving forward is the ability to work with our own associates. I think everybody knows Walmart's a slightly large company. We've got 1.4 million, I think, associates in the United States, and they're largely untapped. And we've now been around for 51 years, and I think for 50 of those years, if not even 50 and a half of those years, we've really shied away from trying to activate, I guess, our associates. We're a pretty humble brand at our roots. We're a brick and mortar retailer, and there's not a lot that from a business and operations standpoint you want to get in the way of the associate doing their job. The reality is that social and digital are all around us every day, and when associates are on their break and before they clock in and when they get done with work, they're on social, and they are our biggest advocates, without question, more so than our customers. And our associates are proud to work here, and we just have not encouraged them, and in fact we've probably discouraged them from sharing their voice and letting people know. And I think that there's still some probably misunderstanding about our social media policy and about why associates should be out there, and then what they should say and what they shouldn't say, not because of the company, but just to be respectful of our customers. And that's just a huge opportunity for us moving forward. And so what marketing does in terms of getting customers to be brand advocates and get excited about everyday low prices is not something I have a lot of familiarity with, but we've spent quite a lot of time laying the foundation for getting our associates involved, identifying associates who are already active on social. That's obviously not as big a deal in terms of saying, hey, are you willing to say something about the company, or feel free to say something about the company, and that's where I think folks are going to notice a big difference, hopefully next year, with the number of associates that can be online saying things about how proud they had to work for the company, because it's what I hear every time I'm in one of our stores, and they just want to get their voice out there, and we've got to take the chains off and free them up to do, and there's good and bad that's going to come with that, and I think that we've set the process up in place, and we've set the guidelines and parameters so that hopefully there aren't any mistakes. I'm sure there'll be one or two along the way, and hopefully we can contain them. But we really, I think that's something that we're going to focus on with regards to advocacy. So we have a couple challenges. One, there are some infrastructure challenges here at the home office. We have been probably a little slow in taking down the firewall that prevents the lion's share of management level associates from accessing social media sites while they're at work. My team and the other digital teams that I referenced earlier have, full access to everything, but other people don't have that. So we recently did some on-the-spot promotions in 16 stores around the country, and we put together a video that was just, I think, really captured the enthusiasm of the day. And when we shared it with some of our leadership here, they couldn't get to YouTube. So we've got some fundamental infrastructure problems. When it gets to the store level, I don't think it's a lack of education. I think it's the fear thing. But let me kind of explain what I mean by that. We've got, I think the latest numbers I saw, like a lot of brands that are going through these challenges, I think we might have 5 generations of workers that are here at Walmart, from the baby boomers on down to millennials and everyone in between. And I think it's somewhat intuitive, but also probably unfair to some people to think that kind of the people at the older end of our workforce are less enamored with social and don't understand it as much as the younger end of our worker spectrum. But for the most part, I think that's true. And so when you've got 4,000 stores like we do across the country and 4,000 store managers, you can imagine they range in age from 25 to much older. And so just recently, I was on hand when one of our former colleagues here on corporate affairs was promoted and got his own store and is going to St. Louis. Well, he's gonna be dynamite on social, and he's going to let his associates be on social, and I think he'll encourage them and make sure they understand that there shouldn't be a fear thing. But unfortunately, I have to tell you that I've been on the phone with store managers who I start to go down this path of talking to them about what I want to do and what I think we need to do, and they put the brakes on immediately, and I think they're scared to death. And I think that's where our probably education campaign needs to start, is at that level. So like I said, for 50 years, we've just really conditioned our store managers that, getting the job done and serving the customer is job number one. And what I think we're trying to bring to the table is this point of view that you can serve the customer online as well, and you can ensure that the customer experience from the store to the digital world is what they had expected. And being proud of the company and being proud of some of the initiatives that we've undertaken for associates to share in that enthusiasm, from word of mouth, like wearing a T-shirt in the store that says "Ask me about Walmart's campaign to fight hunger," all the way to what they say with their family, friends, coworkers, relatives, etc. online. I think that's where we've got a gap right now that we've got to bridge in the next year.
Now, an interesting question for me, any business, even Walmart, started on the basis of personal relationships, that one-on-one connection, that handshake, that moment where you're buying from a person and you're going back because you trust that person, like that person. Have we reached the point yet of going full circle where with social, with the tools we have, a large corporation can rebuild and regain that level of personal connection? Can we go back to people selling, with these tools?
I think on some level we can, and I think that's the frame through which my team certainly looks at this, and through which we build our channels, which is trying to create content for, what you're doing is you're creating content for an audience segment, but at the end of the day, you're going to reach individuals on an individual level. It's how you scale for it. So right now, we just simply don't have the resources to reply to 60,000 relevant mentions of Walmart a day. So you've got to pick and choose your battles, and then figure out how you're going to respond to them on a one-on-one level. But I think that the customer Trust has always been the most important thing, knowing that we've got the lowest prices and we've got good service and that they can come into our stores and get what they need. How we use social and how we use our channels to reinforce that message is obviously something that's very important for us and something that we focus on every day. And I think as we build out our teams and I've had this conversation about customer service, we're just not, as a company, oriented more in that direction. I don't know that we have enough resources that are out there doing that kind of stuff, and unlike Dell or some of the other companies, Verizon I think has done this, where they've created these dedicated customer service handles. We're not there yet. We still are pretty dependent upon the old call-in model, and so we've got a lot of people that are dedicated to answering phones and processing customer service inquiries that way. And I think if I had, this isn't within my team's purview, so I can't say this with 100% certainty, but I would guess that eventually those people are going to be moved over into more of a digital role, and we'll get back to that kind of one-on-one connecting on that level. And then hopefully that's happening every time somebody walks into one of our stores. I mean, I know all of our cashiers at the 3 or 4 Walmarts here in Northwest Arkansas, and you do kind of go back to see those people. And I know our store managers, they walk around all the time. I see them interact with customers. And so I hope that's the experience that people still have with Walmart on some level today, even though we've grown from one store here in Arkansas to the Fortune 1. I hope people still get that opportunity in our stores. I think that where I've had to adapt personally and where I think I've had to evolve is in understanding some of the power, both responsible and irresponsible, that comes with these channels. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. When I first started on this particular job and building this particular team, I think I probably tended to overreact more often to criticism that I was seeing on social, and it can be hurtful. It really can. These aren't even personal attacks. These are just people offering criticism on my company, and you want to respond to everything, and you can't. We just don't have, like I said, the people that can sit here and respond every day. And we're trying to strike a positive tone, and so while I do want to defend the company and try to set the record straight, at the end of the day, mine is a team of 4 people, and so there's only so much that we can accomplish, and so we try to prioritize, excuse me, try to see, who's really looking for kind of conversation and who's just looking to stir up a fight. There's a lot of human instinct that goes into what the machines are telling us in terms of credibility and all those kinds of things. And I think that's kind of the learning that I've gone through in this particular job. And I'll just kind of put in a side note, because I for all the people out there who still manage their companies' websites, I think that they tend to get overlooked nowadays because everybody's putting so much focus on social channels. But corporate websites, especially for Walmart's, they're huge. And as I've gone around and talked to folks at Coke and Pepsi and other brands, we shouldn't forget the number of visitors that those sites get. And I think our corporate site gets somewhere around 20 million unique visitors a year. So that's a huge channel for us. And I think I underestimated how big it was when I took on this role, and how powerful a channel it can still be in this day and age. And I think that much like we're going to focus on advocacy with our associates next year, where I think we're also going to focus on shifting our corporate website into one that's more conversational and more socially oriented, so that we can do some of this conversational stuff and reach other people through that channel as well. Smart social means to me that our underlying strategy that we put in place last year for our social programs was that we wanted to deliver the right message to the right audience on the right channel at the right time. And to me, that's what smart social is, and that's what smart digital is that, as we talked about earlier, the days of having 3 networks and 4 newspapers and a mailbox are over. So if your communications and your content marketing strategy hasn't evolved beyond kind of one message for one audience, I think that's probably not smart social. So to me, it's about understanding where our audience is, what channels are they on, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we have here is understanding what are the channels where our audiences are. So as these things come online, and you referenced Snapchat earlier, and it took quite a while, I think, for Walmart to decide to be on Pinterest and Instagram, and what was the value going to be there, and how many of our customers were there. And as I alluded to earlier, with a team of 4, I would immediately cannibalize my entire team if I tried to chase too many channels. And so you really got to make a decision about where your channels, where your audience is, and what kind of content do they want, and then understanding how to deliver it, and then be willing to engage in that conversation. And so we're still learning on the fly. We, by no stretch of the imagination, have it perfect, but I think we're doing a much better job than we have in the past, trying to turn around the aircraft carrier here. Takes some time, and the good news is our whole team is on board. So the entire corporate affairs shop at Walmart kind of gets this fundamentally and understands, the days of push communications, sending things when we want to push them, and hoping that people pick them up and share them with their, those days are long behind us. And so I think smart social to me means, again, just looking at your data, letting your data help guide you rather than gut, and understanding how you can get your messages out to the largest audiences possible.